I definitely think a safe space for me is on the fire road above my house, where I go hiking and I go running. Every time that I go out there, my thought process is never the same. What I'm attempting to achieve or what I'm attempting to find, or honestly, what I'm attempting to run from. It's this overwhelming feeling of not being good enough for the people around me, not being good enough to be a part of whatever I'm trying to be a part of, and so I run from it.
The sexual abuse of a child is a horrific offense and can cause scars that last a lifetime for its victims.
It's a case about children who have had their innocence stolen from them, and a culture that did nothing to stop it or prevent it from happening to others.
It is estimated that 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys are sexually abused or assaulted by an adult.
I think it's isolation from parents. It's out of a normal routine. Some kids may have a false sense of security.
Victims advocates tell us that the real number of abuse cases is likely much higher since many are never reported.
Layers of choice to protect are very deep with victims. No is the easiest lie to tell.
Prominent youth coach is accused of molesting a teenage tennis player, and police say it's not the first time he's faced charges.
Burgos' most recent victim, a 16-year-old male, came forward to tell his parents of the misconduct, which started 2 years ago.
Police tell us Normandy Burgos was arrested this time on a Richmond tennis court. They say he sexually assaulted his victims for years.
For me, I've always felt like running away from things is never an answer, and finding a way around things is also not an answer. The only way through something is through it. It's going to be very difficult for me to tear down the walls that I've put up, but I hope that I can be freed in a sense to show people that are around me who I truly am. When I first joined the academy, the Burgos Tennis Academy, Burgos was in a very good situation as far as his reputation in Marin County because he created this non-profit organization that was helping kids in Marin that didn't have other opportunities to afford these high-level tennis coaches. He ran an academy that was founded on hard work without all of these extra advantages, and that hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And that was something that was actually very appealing to a lot of people in Marin because there was so much of this affluence and posh culture around tennis and around the county. And so when the opportunity came around to have a coach that could get me to the next level for free, it was an opportunity that we felt like we really couldn't pass up.
The biggest thing that Burgos did was just saying, you're not going to go to college without a full scholarship without me. I'm your ticket. I'm the one that's going to get you there, and you don't have to pay me, but you have to do everything I tell you to do, no questions asked. And that is just wrong, but also that's how he was able to manipulate these players and these families into trusting him.
Exploitation doesn't know a certain gender, and it happens to anybody. It doesn't matter where you live, it has nothing to do with any demographic about you. The stress and traumas on our youth have escalated over the years, and we know that. Our suicide rates are up, depression is up. Those are gateways for predators. It's part of the grooming process, it's part of how they look at vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities are what are preyed upon.
Good. Basically what a manipulator does is through patience and diligence, they set a stage for their own reputation. And with that reputation, they slowly, patiently begin to groom their victims into compliance. In this case, I was enamored by him and what he was being able to provide for me. He was an idol, he was someone I respected, he was someone that gave me opportunity that I never dreamt of having.
It started progression, like 1 lesson a week, and then they were doing lessons every single day. He was getting everything for free, all these lessons in these clinics, This is a very good opportunity, and Burgos is being super nice. Stevie told me a few times that he was set up with some Cal tennis players at the age of 14. They went on a Pepperdine together. It was just a weird relationship.
Ryan Ali and I met when we were 7, and we started playing tennis together when we were about 7, and that's how our friendship started, was just on the court, day after day after day after day. Playing, competing, having fun, spending time with each other, and it just continued throughout the academy, and we drifted. And I was going through the abuse. I was the one that didn't want to play doubles with him because Burgos told me he's not good enough and he's not the person to get you to the next level. And looking back on it, of course, he didn't want me to have a friend to talk to.
Burgos was very controlling of Stevie, and that was one of the things that was definitely a red flag for me, was that, you know, Stevie wasn't hitting with other kids. He was only really with Burgos all the time.
I really did not know the term sexual assault, and I couldn't define it. And because things gradually increased so slowly, it was very difficult to comprehend and recognize that crossing of a line. The sexual abuse started right before I turned 14, and it happened hundreds of times. And there was a stretch of time where it just felt like every morning the first thing that came to my mind when I woke up was, how do I avoid being raped today?
And it's interesting because people think you can just walk away or you can leave, but you can't. You're really trauma bonded to the situation. You're trauma bonded where you feel like you owe them something. You're connected to them in such a way that you almost feel disloyal. They put so much time and effort into you. And it's the fear of letting others know, what will they think of you? What will they think of this whole situation? And then you start to blame yourself. I should have made a different choice. I should have went down a different path. It's really my fault.
This wasn't just an abuse, this was my first intimate relationship. And there was a relationship created. And I really struggle knowing that that's what shaped my feeling of what relationships have to be. It's hard to know that was my first experience, that was what I've learned relationships can potentially be, and for a long time it's what I felt like they have to be. It's been really, really difficult for me to change my perception of what human companionship and what a relationship means. And it's something that I'm going to be working on for probably as long as I live. I mean, it's hard to overcome something that was drilled into me at such an age that I was so vulnerable and so willing to be. It was so easy to impress that upon me. Breaking away from the sexual abuse was as difficult as anything I've ever had to do. It definitely didn't happen on the first try. And it's really, really difficult to make a clean break when there's so much pressure and so much riding on a relationship and a situation. So I tried to end the abuse, but not end our coach and player relationship. And I had to deal with a month of quite a few other forms of abuse, whether it be verbal or physical as far as practices go. And I immediately started to see the signs of that gratitude arising in this other younger kid who was the son of a very disadvantaged family, and was taking all of my old rackets, was taking all of my old clothes, was being given all of my lesson time when I acted up. And it just felt like everything just kind of came into focus all at once. And it was the most horrible feeling because it had taken so long. And I just felt so powerless and stupid. And I had no clue what to do, but I knew something had to be done.
On this crusade to get things right and to come out about what was happening, That's what showed the character of Stevie, for him to be able to see, okay, I know this is wrong for me, but I just can't let this happen to somebody else. And that's what pushed him so hard to break the cycle, to go out in public and say what was happening, to tell his parents.
And when we started working with the police in order to ultimately compile enough evidence to put him away, things started to improve for me. I started to have a sense of purpose again, which felt amazing. The sting operation ultimately started 6 months after I ended the abuse and I left the relationship in the academy with Burgos. The idea was that I was going to reach back out to Burgos and I was going to rekindle that relationship with him.
My supervisor, Paul Graves, said, would you be willing to secretly record with the police department 2 meetings with defendant Burgos and get him to admit to, one, engaging in sexual conduct with you and maybe the time periods.
And through the second meeting, I was able to catch him on a microphone talking about our abuse and talking about our relationship and the sexual aspects of that relationship. And I saw it in his eyes when he saw me get in my car. He just knew that there was something off. And he starts driving behind me and he's tailing me and I try and go a little faster and he tails me there and I don't know how to get away, and I have the police on my phone that I have in my pocket telling me you need to avoid him. And so we get to an intersection in Richmond and they tell me to just run the light. And as I went through the intersection, I was able to see in my rearview mirror them surround his car and force him out of the vehicle and make the arrest. I was yelling in the car, yes, yes, finally, it's over.
A Bay Area tennis coach is in jail this morning accused of sexually assaulting 2 of his underage students. Police arrested this man, Normandy Burgos, yesterday morning at the tennis courts at the Richmond Plunge. Detectives say back in February, someone reported he had sexually assaulted a 16-year-old boy. During their investigation, they learned of another incident involving another underage student. Burgos was previously charged with assaulting 4 other minors in Mill Valley, but was not convicted.
When I had to testify in court against Burgos, I spent 3 days from 9 to 5 at the courtroom, and I spent close to 11 hours on the stand, speaking and discussing everything that had happened in full detail, dealing with as many difficult questions as the lawyers could throw at me. And ultimately, we've had some success. Since the trial happened, Burgos was sentenced to 255 years on 60 counts of child molestation and will be in prison for a long time. And I believe 11 months went by before the New York Times article came out. And after the New York Times article came out with the specific accusations from this article calling out the United States Tennis Association and the Safe Sport organization, he was then added to the Safe Sport banned coaches list. You could say a year too late, or you could say over a decade late.
We have to shift our mentality on looking at the victim and always trying to come up with, what did they do? Oh, they didn't make the right choice. Oh, they shouldn't have gone there. No, it's not about that, and we need to reshift that narrative, and we need to start looking at it in a productive, healthier way.
Marlene Capra and the Protect organization that she works with came into my life almost immediately after one of my articles that was written on me came out, and contacted me and said, hey, do you want another opportunity to try and get your story out and try and help others? It's been empowering. How I, at this age, can make a change for the better for many people, and I can take action. Knowledge of what we're trying to teach.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm with Protect, and Protect stands for Prevention Organized to Educate Children and Communities on Trafficking. I was at the UN about 2 years ago, and we were meeting with global leaders around the world, and they said the #1 way to prevent human trafficking or any kind of exploitation is preventative education. So in 2017, 3 Strands, which is rolling this out, co-authored this bill, so it was signed into effect, and it is a mandate, but there was no funding attached to it. So I've had to go out and actually here locally in Marin County, I've had to actually try to get support and people that value our youth, that realize that we cannot move through this and be healthy unless we address the needs of everyone, and this is one of them. And I wanted the voices of our youth because they're the ones that need to be leading this movement. We need survivors to work with us, all alongside of us. We learn from each other. It's a healing movement.
What I want to achieve through what I work with Marlene and Protect is to feel like I'm making a difference to help at least someone else not have to endure the kind of pain that those of us who have gone through an experience of abuse and rape have to endure. They're crying for help, but they don't have a way to speak it. And so they don't have a way to communicate. And we're trying to create that connection between those who may have an ability to help and those who don't have the ability to speak.
Burgos took us to tournaments together all the time, during the abuse, during the abuse. And to be in that backseat and eating meals with them all the time together, and I was borderline watching it happen, and I didn't know what was going on. And the thing was, if I had decided to pursue the Burgos a little bit more, it could have easily been me.
There are other boys in this situation, and they don't come out as often because they feel like they should have taken care of themselves. And they're embarrassed to say that they were exploited. His voice empowers other males, and it really is the gift that keeps on giving, in the sense that other people are really rescued in this and realize they do have a choice.
Stevie, when he came to join our clinic, when he was kind of going through this whole process, he was just this great guy, but he was just so broken. He loves tennis so much passion for the game, but he really had to find the game in a new way. New coaches, new team, and we welcomed him in. And it was all about building confidence in his morale.
I am beyond happy to have Pablo and JT, because those guys were the ones that rekindled that passion for the game, and they have it in the right perspective. And they want me to be a healthy and good person first and a good player second.
He was saying thank you to me, saying thank you for having me on the team. I know I bring this baggage with the past with this coach. I just stopped him right there and looked in the eye, and I was like, dude, that's the last thing you bring is baggage. If anything, you're like a beacon of light for everybody.
The fact that I'm still playing tennis is something that I try and appreciate every single day. It's something that brings me so much joy and so much passion. But on the flip side, it also brings back so many different memories. And it's hard for me to separate, in a sense, that joy and that passion, that love and that abuse and that trauma.
To be honest, I didn't really know to what extent it was affecting him, but I remember one practice after we talked about it, and he told me and Paul that he's still hearing Burgos' voice in his head when he's missing a shot. That kind of clicked for me, and I realized that he's constantly fighting it every second he steps on the court. And after realizing that, then I kind of became a little bit more aware of what he's going through in practice. But you really have to know it. You wouldn't see from the outside, you would just think, oh yeah, he's playing tennis and he missed a shot, he got mad. But in reality, he's going through a lot more.
The second that I can come outward instead of looking inward when I'm on a tennis court is a moment that I learn to enjoy it, and then learn to go back inward and find that joy and passion that I've had since I was 5 years old.
have the ability to confront this thing is one thing, and then to have the ability to confront it over and over again and let everybody know that it's okay. These things happen, it's out of your control. You know, you gotta try to move past it. It's not something you just snap your fingers and it happens. Like, he's putting some real effort into that.
When I talk about where I hold my stress when it comes to tension in my body, when I talk about what it means to be stressed out when I'm talking about tennis, all of it relates back to the actual abuse itself. And it's not something that I like talking about, but I do hold all my tension in the areas of my body that I was touched inappropriately. It's not unheard of for all of the pain that I feel to be stemming from those areas, because that's where I hold all this tension. And so in that sense, it's been extremely difficult for me to open up to a trainer who is entirely focused on working with my body to help it heal itself.
I'm a huge manual therapy person, so I think touch is a really big way to gain trust. Talking him through everything, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is how it's gonna help you, this is what you need to do for it to help you.
It's so rewarding when I'm able to actually trust those around me, to let go, to let others help me, whether it's with tennis or with life or with everything that I'm struggling with on a day-to-day basis.
Some of the reflecting and is okay. It's just when you spin it to too much negative and you never look at all the great things Stevie's doing. Your quote-unquote success in tennis is always beyond the cognitive horizon,
right?
Because you get a taste, and then what? Then it's gone, because you're already moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because you're already winning just by showing up.
Yeah.
And you're already brave
Yeah.
just by showing up. Everybody sees that, Stevie. Just by showing up.
I like that. I really like that. Thank you, Gogo.
You're so welcome, Stevie.
Playing Stevie now is so much more enjoyable because he's so compassionate. He's so understanding of of winning and losing. And when I was on the court and we were playing there, it felt like I was playing, one of my best friends. It felt like I was playing with him back in the Mount Tamarack Club when we were 8.
It just felt so good to be able to reconnect with him through the game that I had loved for so long, and through the game that I had played with solely him for so long. And just playing with him brought me that much joy.
After the match, I remember he told me we're always gonna be best friends, and I just appreciate stepping on the court with you. And that felt so good to hear, as a friend and opponent.
And we gonna be alright.
What I've learned since the abuse and since trying to work through it, I certainly have after effects lingering that are not going away anytime soon. And it's going to be an ongoing process and an ongoing battle to overcome. And there are a lot of things that the most important thing that I can recognize is that there is no overcoming, there is no winning, there's no losing. These are just things I'm going to have to handle and accept just a little bit better here and there as life goes on. I hope that in the future I'll be able to let people in, and I hope that I'll be able to trust, and that I hope that I'll be able to love people unconditionally, and also maintain self-respect, and to not let that happen again.